I've told you a million times, and I'll say it again, KYOGO isn't going anywhere this transfer window. I would be stunned. I will eat this hat. I will eat this hat if KYOGO leaves. Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, welcome to one of the biggest Celtic transfer talks I have done in the history of the Ryan 118 channel. A huge breaking news update that KYOGO Furuhashi is officially set to leave Celtic Football Club, not even 24 hours on from last night's historic night in the UEFA Champions League, where Celtic beat Young Boys to qualify for the knockout stages of Europeans elite competition for the first time since 2013, after KYOGO scored a first half hat-trick that was all offside. Not even 24 hours later, we are talking about KYOGO Furuhashi leaving the club in a blockbuster, unexpected transfer saga, one that broke mere minutes after the full-time whistle last night. I thought that I had to rub my eyes last night to see if it was real. I didn't want to believe it. I think we were all in a bit of disbelief. Only Celtic can be the club that do something so historic, so groundbreaking and so important to them and then go on to losing their best player. But nonetheless, we're here. We have to talk about it. Man, if you didn't want to believe me last night when we touched on it on the stream very briefly, you might want to buckle yourself in, because it's happening. He's gone. Well, at least according to the manager of Rennes in France, who today at his press conference confirmed that KYOGO will hopefully complete his transfer to the top side in France, one of the top sides in France, I should say. He's saying that he expects it to be done today. We hope that the operation is finished today. If that's the case, he could have minutes in Monaco. He is a player that we really wanted, and he can bring us another threat from in behind. This was quotes from a freelance writer and chief editor of Transfer Markt. Huge. We've essentially had confirmation from Rennes themselves. The manager of Rennes has confirmed that KYOGO will leave Celtic and join them maybe as soon as this evening. Yeah, if that doesn't do it for you, don't worry, we'll jump through another few sources. Here was Fabrizio Romano, who also gave us this update around 1:30 this afternoon, saying that Jorge Sampaoli has confirmed it. We're getting it done. It should be sealed today, and it will be a permanent transfer in excess of €10 million. And finally, here the Sky Sports article on it around 2:30 this afternoon via Anthony Joseph. Of course, is very much on the ball with the goings on at Celtic Football Club, saying that Celtic striker KYOGO is set for a £10 million move to Rennes, with JOTA being linked with a Celtic Park return. We'll come on to the JOTA portion of the show later on, because it's a huge blockbuster episode of Celtic transfer talk. However, Rennes manager Jorge Sampaoli is hopeful a deal will be completed today, and the £10 million striker, who has scored 85 goals for Celtic since joining in 2021, is set to go. It's a transfer that will be done today by the looks of it, that broke late last night in a story via Le Parisien in France. It was then picked up by L'Equipe this morning, the very high up French sports publication. These are all very reputable sources in Christ. Once again, I can't help but reiterate the point. We have the manager of Rennes coming out and saying that he thinks the transfer will be done today. KYOGO is off. And for a lot of people, this was something that was writing on the wall. They've seen this coming since August, and I'll give that to folk. I'll say that. People said as soon as that he switched agent in August, they could see KYOGO leaving the club, that he was destined to go. There was clearly something in the works that was maybe an indication of him wanting to move on and take the next step in his career. Did I expect that to happen in this transfer window? God, no. I went out on a limb and said that I would eat this hat, for goodness sake, that if he left in this transfer window. Yet here we are, after one of the biggest nights in the club's recent history, losing the striker that many have dubbed the best since Larsson. It's all a bit insane. I'm gutted. I'm devastated. I'm slightly heartbroken, to tell you the truth. But there's so much to discuss around this. 85 goals since the summer of 2021. 85 goals in 165 Celtic appearances. another 19 assists, taking his goal contributions well beyond the 100 goal contributions in that space of time between the summer of 2021 and January of 2025. KYOGO has been nothing short of a fantastic servant to Celtic Football Club, and before we go any further, all I can say is thank you to the wee man, because he has been nothing but a joy to watch since the minute he came through the door here. He was the real pinpoint and the real, I don't know how to exactly word it, but he was the real catalyst for a revolution at Celtic. When Ange Postecoglou came through the door, he was the guy who, I think, spearheaded what everything Ange Ball was all about. I think he was the guy that represented the new look and improved Celtic. The Celtic side who were down and out after losing their 10 in a row campaign. The Celtic side who looked void of any creativity in goal scoring. We knew that Odsonne Edouard was out the door. We needed somebody to come in and replace him, and here we were linked with this wee Japanese winger, and we didn't know if he'd be quite good enough, and he rocked our worlds from the minute he got through the door at Celtic Park. An absolute treasure of a guy, a gentleman of a player it seems, and somebody who looked like an overall joy to be around at Celtic Park. I genuinely feel this is a one-of-a-kind player that we're probably never going to see again, the likes of again here at Celtic, because he's just been magic. Absolute magic. And I know that some folk have been really desperate to rewrite the history of KYOGO's Celtic career because of a slightly underwhelming campaign this time out. But to rewrite his Celtic career because of a slightly underwhelming campaign, as I would word it, I think is just totally unfair on him, totally unfair on the player and the personality that he is. He has been just an absolute joy. If you can't tell in this hectic Celtic transfer talk, I'm actually heartbroken to see him go, because I think that everything he's brought to the club has been nothing but positive. The memories that he's gave us, from his goals in the cup final against Hibs to turn us around from 1-0 down, to his magic goals at Celtic Park and Ibrox and Derby games, to his contributions on European nights, to everything in between. He has delivered on the biggest of stages for Celtic and just been someone who we've cherished and rightfully called the best since Larsson, because I genuinely do believe there's no debate about it. I loved Moussa Dembele. There's a reason his shirt has been behind me in my videos since the day he left the club, because he's one of my favourites ever. But KYOGO surpasses everything that Moussa done, surpasses everything Edouard done, or Griffiths done, or any of these other strikers, Scott McDonald, Venegura Hesseling, any of these strikers. I genuinely don't think any of them can compete with what KYOGO done and help spearhead that attacking revolution that Ange Postecoglou brought here. So all I can urge of Celtic fans as he leaves, as he goes through the door, is remember that. Don't rewrite the history. Don't go on about how he's not been good enough this season and that you're glad to see him go. Yeah, there's maybe positives of this deal and things might work out okay for Celtic. I can fully understand that. But just looking back on his Celtic career, even this season, he still has 10 goals in the league this season. 11 goals last season in the Premiership, so he was about to surpass that number. I think that we've seen a completely different side of KYOGO, and maybe not as vicious a side of KYOGO since Rodgers came in, as lethal a side of KYOGO since Rodgers came in. But go back to that 30 goal season when he was here under Ange and before Ange went. Go back to the season where he probably could have had a 30 goal season if it wasn't for the fact he picked up an injury in Ange's first season. Think of the highs that KYOGO brought to this club and remember that as he leaves. Don't rewrite the history and say that he wasn't that good, because he was that good. He was a phenomenal talent. And I'm proper gutted. £10 million. It's a lot of money, and I think an amount of money that Celtic probably couldn't turn their nose up at this stage of his career when he's hitting 30. I still think he had a lot more to give Celtic. If it was up to me, I wouldn't want to see him go. If it was up to me, I wouldn't let him go. But I think clearly that there's been something in the works that's made it come to this. But I'm still gutted around it. So as I mentioned, of course, numerous times by now, the Rennes manager himself confirming today that transfer should be done and dusted by this evening. We might have official pictures and more news by the time this video is even out. I can't believe how this has happened so quickly. It's been a whirlwind of a 12 hours, I would say, not even 24 hours. I mean, since all of this happened at the point of recording, you know, we're just over 12 hours on from the initial story breaking post Young Boys last night, and I just can't believe that this is what it's come to. The fact that he's off, this is huge. This is a massive story. This has been the talisman of Celtic for the last 4 years almost, and we can't underestimate the impact he's had on Celtic, or what he still had to give to Celtic. It's a huge acquisition for Rennes, to say the least. And the questions that come alongside it, it's nuts. Is Jota coming back? Will Celtic finally go for Mathias Kvistgaarden? We're opening ourselves up to a huge amount of questioning heading into such a vital part of the campaign, where we're trying to push for a treble, where we have European football to keep focusing on. Are Celtic doing the right thing to sell a player of KYOGO's quality before these potential huge games? I don't think so, but if we make the right signings, I do truly believe deep down there's a way that Celtic can make this a very successful transfer window, even in losing KYOGO Furuhashi. Because French football journalists are reporting that Jota could be very close to a Celtic return. I mean, if you told me back in August that we were going to have a season which would see KYOGO leave and Jota come back and us qualifying for knockout football in the Champions League, I would have asked you to put the life support back on, because I would have been in heaven, quite frankly. And I can't, not so much with the KYOGO leaving part. I'm not saying I would have been in heaven if KYOGO left, but I think you catch the drift of what I'm trying to say. According to reports in France, Jota is set to complete a return back to Celtic in a separate deal from the KYOGO one. So this wouldn't be a swap. It's not as if KYOGO going to Rennes guarantees a return for Jota back to Celtic, but the reports are suggesting that they're willing to let him go for a fee of around £7 million in this transfer window. Celtic are in negotiation as we speak. He's been looking for a way out of Rennes for a while now, and with KYOGO going the other way, it looks as though Celtic want a deal that can get Jota involved somehow with a move back to the club. And of course, I did mention this in Sky Sports' article, so we'll have a look at what they're saying, because Anthony Joseph reports that Sky Sports News understand that Celtic would be open for a return from Jota, who's been frozen out from Rennes following his move from Al Ittihad, and they're exploring the possibility for a deal for Jota separately. And I just can't believe this is the conversations we're currently having. Look, listen, I still have my reservations about the chances of Jota coming back. Do I want him back? Absolutely. I've been on the record many a time to say that Jota is one of the most talented players I've ever seen in a Celtic shirt. And at his time here, at his best time here at Celtic, when you look at him in this shirt here, for example, there's plenty of videos of me on this YouTube channel talking about how I truly believe that Jota was the most technically gifted player in the Scottish Premiership in Scotland. One of the most technically gifted ever in my lifetime. In the 25 years I've been on this planet almost, I've not seen many technically better than him. Maybe your Nakamura's, of course, and maybe a couple of others that I was maybe too young to remember. But in terms of my life growing and acknowledging Celtic players, Jota, one of the top technical talents we had. He was an unbelievable player, and I'd kill to see him back. But I just want to urge everybody that don't get your hopes up too high, not to be the killjoy. This whole tax thing that's going on, I still think there's a huge chance that he does not fancy a move back to Glasgow to get his arse taxed after his move to Saudi Arabia. There is the whole thing about having to wait a couple of years before coming back, and it's not quite hit that mark yet for him. So, yeah, listen, if he comes back, I'd be delighted. And I do believe that Celtic will be talking to Rennes about the possibility of happening. You know, the whole I scratch your back, you scratch mine. We've gave you KYOGO, now let's talk to Jota. But whether or not Jota, the player himself, wants to come back is a completely different story that we are waiting for more to be given, information to be given out about. What I will say about a potential Jota return is it would make this transfer window one of the ones I have been proven wrong about the most in my time doing this. Usually I do quite well at predicting if a move has enough kind of truth in it, or if things are going to happen or not happen, if I think it's nonsense. I've got a decent track record, but I would have been proven an absolute dafty with this window if KYOGO goes and Jota comes in, because I said, look, listen, I don't think KYOGO will leave. I think it's pretty much guaranteed it won't happen, and I said I'm pretty much guaranteed that Jota won't come back, and the fact that both of them might happen, listen, I'm glad. I'd be happy if I was proven wrong on the Jota one. I'd be so happy. But it seems that it is the story that's getting ran with by a number of publications right now. We need to wait to see more come out about this one. It's just talk at the minute. Listen, KYOGO is almost certainly gone, but Jota is nowhere near certainly a Celtic player. I feel like this has been a sore head of a Celtic transfer talk. What comes next? What do we do with KYOGO leaving? We need a striker now. I've heard murmurs, I've heard talk that Brendan Rodgers is a big fan of the idea of playing Dyson Maeda through the middle, which certainly opens up the possibility to JOTA technically being the KYOGO replacement, because then you would then play JOTA on the left, Kuhn on the right, and Maeda through the middle. But I still think that it would be naive of Celtic not to go out there and get a player, a goal scorer, a striker. Because we clearly need that. We've clearly needed it all season. KYOGO only started coming into a wee bit of confidence of late, and I think that we still needed to bring in somebody who we could lift that confidence and scoring goals again. The easy target is Mateusz Kvistgaardsen. He's the one. He's the guy that we've been linked with for 2 years, and his record speaks for itself over at Brøndby. He has been an absolute phenomenal talent for them, and because of KYOGO leaving the club, you guessed it, the stories are already starting. I mean, here's the one that came out earlier today about Mateusz Kvistgaardsen, saying that apparently we are zoning in on him as the replacement for KYOGO now that he's off. They want to rekindle their move for the £8 million rated Danish striker Mateusz Kvistgaardsen, and he did want him last January, didn't happen. Wanted him in the summer, didn't happen, and now we are back in, but with stiff competition. So his name is popping up again, and what I will say to that is I think it would be a fantastic KYOGO replacement. And I know that I've went on this whole spiel about how much I love KYOGO and how gutted I am to see him go, and trust me, I am. But I think if we were to end this transfer window, and this is a whole hypothetical situation, which I would think would be best case scenario and dreamland scenario, I don't think it's achievable. But the dreamland scenario of ending this window with Tierney in, with JOTA in, and with Kvistgaardsen in, I think ultimately means we'd end this window a better side. And at that point, I think I could accept a bit easier the fact that KYOGO's left. But it's going to be tough. It's not as if Kvistgaardsen's a guarantee here. Remember, he is one of Frankfurt's top targets to come in and replace Marmoush, who has just left to Manchester City. Florian Plettenberg of Sky still reporting this, that he is one of the options that have been discussed internally, and I think the move to Frankfurt is a very attractive one at the minute, especially because Frankfurt are flying. They're one of the heavy favourites to go on and win the Europa League this season. They're doing well in the Bundesliga, and of course they need to spend big to replace Marmoush, who they've just made about £65 million on, so the money is there for them to go out and break bank for Mateusz Kvistgaardsen, and I think that Frankfurt is just a very attractive move. But he is not the only option. They are looking at other players. Arnaud Kalimwendo seems to be the other one. Hopefully they sway in that direction more than Kvistgaardsen. And Plettenberg does say that the more concrete target at the moment isn't Kvistgaardsen, it's Elye Wahi, who is currently working on a verbal agreement. So if Kvistgaardsen doesn't go to Frankfurt, if they do go for Elye Wahi, he might be available. And Celtic need to act fast, because other clubs will be looking at him, I tell you that right now. I can't believe what's happening. I can't believe it. This hat needs to be... this is my dinner tonight. KYOGO's off. I didn't think I'd be making that video. I really did not think I'd be making that video. Some people in this country will be delighted to see that, because he's terrorised them for fucking years now. There will be more of a farewell than this. This is just your panicky, rapid transfer update. That's what this is. I'll see you tonight, because this is going to change massively, isn't it? I might need to do another video. Like and subscribe. Speak to you later on.